7:14 on a Monday. We're back to normal around here. Mike, the Minute Mechanic. This is Mike number 2.
Good morning, Dale.
We survived it.
We sure did. Man, I'll tell you what. You know, people talk about weekends going by quick. Let it rain and sit around the house, and you talk about it. It'll drag one right on out, won't it?
That weekend was 2 weeks long, wasn't it?
Oh my gosh! You know, it's like we was talking before we came on air. You know, I worked around the house and did some things inside, and unfortunately, I spent too much time sitting in my recliner watching TV. And man, I feel like I've been whooped now from sitting around too much.
Well, we had a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And Dallas Cowboys lost.
Yes, they did. Yeah, they got beat again. It's been an ugly season for Dallas, and they managed to get Tony Romo's collarbone broke again.
Again, that poor guy.
Well, I guess he's done now till next year.
Yeah,
and so were they.
Even with a good collarbone, they were done on that.
Oh, yeah, you're right about that. I watched some college football this weekend. I prefer college football 1,000,000 to 1 over NFL.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Arkansas beat Mizzou.
Yeah, I was glad to see. I got a couple buddies of mine that are big Mizzou fans, so I had to give them some grief. And Alabama beat Auburn, so if they, you know, the college playoff is getting settled in pretty good now.
Yeah.
You know, depending on what happens this weekend in the conference championship games, and yeah, it'll be good.
It's gonna be good. Anyway, I got a couple questions.
Okay.
Where is the battery on my Buick Park Avenue? Looked under the trunk and under the hood. How about the back seat?
Yep.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of those Buicks like that, the big front wheel drive GMs. I don't know. I guess they ran out of room under the hood to put a battery. They didn't put it in the trunk. You go back there and you lift up on the cushion where you sit in the back seat, and it'll pull up and out, and your battery's underneath there. It's a specially designed battery. It has vents. You know, that's where with tubes that hook into the side of it, so it vents underneath the car, outside, not inside the passenger compartment. And I want to say it's like a Group 100 or a Group 101, something like that. Expect to pay more for that than you will a regular battery that goes under the hood. And that's where it's at. You'll be surprised when you pop that rear seat cushion up. There'll be a battery under there and a big fuse block, if I remember right. Yeah, I got a bunch of fuses under the back seat.
Huh.
And, you know, it's again, they ran out of places to put it, so under the back seat it went. I remember the first one of them we got up at the shop, you know, many years ago. We had to search a little bit ourselves, and we dug out the owner's manual and figured out where the battery was at. Because we did the usual, just like this. We opened the trunk. No, not in here. Looked under the hood. No. So we figured it had to be in the passenger compartment somewhere, or like the nifty engineers at Chrysler, we hid it in the wheel well somewhere.
Wasn't that hilarious?
Yeah.
What was that, a Chrysler Cirrus? You had to take the left front wheel off and change the battery. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of those early 2000, mid 2000 Chryslers cars had batteries hid in the wheel wells and different places like that, where you had panels that had to be taken out to get to them. At the very minimum, you'd have to turn the wheels, you know, as hard as they'd go one direction or the other. Sometimes it was easier to just pull the tire and wheel off.
Yeah, yeah.
And but that's.
And then they used a GM side post battery.
Yep.
Yeah. Had a side post.
So that's the story on the Buick Park Avenue. You know, we've changed a lot of those batteries out, and you know, it's I guess it's an all right place.
Has there been any issues seeing a battery under the? I mean, Volkswagen did it for years.
I've not seen any issues whatsoever.
And then on cars that they use for racing, they put in the right rear of the trunk, or the trunk, what would be the trunk.
Yeah. No, I've not seen any issues with those batteries. We're seeing more of that stuff, you know, as they pile stuff in under the hood, they run out of room. Chevy Traverse, the Buick Enclave, that model of vehicles there, the battery is behind the passenger seat down in the floor. There's a little panel. You got to lift up the floor mats and all that stuff, and there's a panel under there. And, you know, you sometimes it's a little bit of a search for a battery.
Well, with today's technology.
We had a Volvo in the shop the other day, and the battery was shoved back up under the windshield right in front of the driver almost.
Say that again?
the battery on and I don't remember what model Volvo it was, but it was a 4-door sedan, and it was kind of almost on the driver's side of the car, kind of up under the windshield. Whew. Yeah.
Wow.
Sure was.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah. Well, sure enough, you never know anymore, Dale. The days of just assuming the battery's going to be under the hood when you pop it, not so much.
Really?
That's the first place to look. Now, I'm not. That's the first place I will look on any of them, but that's not a guarantee.
Get the owner's manual out. Find your battery.
Yep. That's for sure.
And I think batteries are starting to move away from the wet sulfuric acid type of battery, the lead acid type. They'll be going to the jelly type.
Yeah, you see more of them. They call them AGM batteries, absorbed glass matte. They're a dry, so if they turn over, that little nasty acid runs everywhere. I've also seen the gel batteries, and the AGM batteries are getting quite popular. That's what's in my motorcycle.
Really?
Yeah, I think they work really well. They're expensive.
Last as long?
Man, back in the day when I first started riding motorcycles, you could figure almost like a lawn and garden tractor. You'd have to replace the battery about every year.
Yeah.
Man. Dale, I've ridden motorcycles 5 years and never replaced the battery.
That's good.
Yeah, so they're expensive. Of course, like everything else, they're very expensive now, but they have improved them. And more cranking amps in them. They crank really good.
It'd be nice, where they're not wet with acid. It'd be better for the environment once the battery is put out.
Right. Well,
behind the shop, so to speak.
Well, but all these batteries now have a core charge, and they're getting them back. That's one thing. It's about a $15 or $20 charge if you don't have a core battery to get to trade. So they're doing a pretty good job about getting old batteries back, and then they recycle them. So yeah, good job.
My 2010 Ram Hemi has a belt that squeaks in the morning when you first start it. How hard are they to change?
Not bad, Of course, that's one of those things that I've got to qualify that statement, because if you've got the right tools and all, they're not bad to change. I've got a belt service kit that I bought some years ago, and it's got all the adapters and sockets and whatever you need, for the most part, to change serpentine belts. Now, if you don't have the right socket or whatever to release a tensioner, well, it can turn into a job. Yeah, it sure can. And I'm going to throw out a helpful hint to anybody changing their own serpentine belt. Before you take that belt off, make a map of where it runs, how it's routed, because you'll take that off and you'll pull your hair out. Just sometimes trying to figure out.
You have to understand that even though some of the pulleys have the grooves, some don't. And it actually runs off of the back smooth part of the belt on some issues.
Right.
The tensioner, perhaps, and an idler, and maybe even a water pump in some instances.
That's exactly right. Sometimes, you'll get under there and it's almost a half and half mix of smooth pulleys and groove pulleys. But as far as that Hemi goes, we change them up there. We do a lot of. We do a few of them, and they're not bad belts to change. Somebody that does stuff like this for a living can have one changed out in 15 minutes. And now, if you don't do this for a living, you're probably looking maybe 30 minutes or something. But the best advice I can give you is drawing a map of how that belt's routed, because, man, I have been guilty in the past of changing a belt on a car, and then after I get the old belt off, I start looking up. Many vehicles under the hood somewhere has a belt routing diagram. Well, I did this one time, and yanked one off and got to looking around. Well, the car had been in an accident, and it had some new parts, so the routing diagram was gone. So it took some doing. It took some thinking, but I finally got it back right. Some of these cars, you'll see them where they've routed the belt in a way that's not OEM, So, but you'll have stuff turning backwards.
Yeah, you sure don't want to get that water pump going backwards.
No, you don't. But you know what I'm saying. You can sometimes people are ingenious what they come up with, and we see them occasionally come in the shop where a belt's wrong, And they have managed to find a way other than what's factory to route that belt. And like I say, sometimes stuff's turning backwards, but they've managed to do it. And but that'll save you some headaches. On that Hemi, I wouldn't be surprised that you'll need a good ratchet and a 15 millimeter, 16 millimeter socket, something like that, or maybe a 3/8 drive, a square 3/8 drive, to release that tensioner and take the old belt off. Yeah, it's not real bad.
We'll go back to the subject where it was squeaking. I replaced my belt and tensioner. Well, you guys did. And the belt squeaks occasionally.
Yeah, belt squeaking once in a blue moon is not I always equate that kind of like brakes squeaking every once in a while. Well, okay, it squeaked. If it does it all the time, we've got a problem. If it does it occasionally, I don't lose a hold. The belt on my truck squeaks. And once it's warmed up, mine goes away. And I don't ever worry. I just haven't yet worried about it. It may make me worry about it one of these days, but at this point in time, I've not lost any sleep over it.
Years ago, I was working one of the garages, and this is over at Sears on 3rd Street at the time. My partner was helping a lady who had a big Lincoln Town Car 460, and she was complaining about noise under the hood. Well, he opened the hood and says, "Okay, start up." So I'm standing there washing my hands, get ready to go to lunch, and I'm watching this whole ordeal. She starts the car, and this horrendous, just this horrible squeal comes from under the hood. And he starts backing up, turn off. And I said, let her run. And I just had dried my hands and picked up that bar of soap and touched it to that air conditioning belt. And just like that, it quieted down. I said, this is back years ago, back in the early 80s when Gates was having trouble with noisy belts. So just go get you another belt and have your mechanic put it on there. And she was happy. Closed the hood, backed out. And my partner says, you could have charged her $400, her not knowing, and you could have fixed the problem. I said, yeah, but I sleep at night,
Right. Absolutely.
But a simple little touch of soap. You don't want to do that on a serpentine. You'd cause them to slip because this was a V belt in a specially designed pulley.
Right.
Which you get away with. Nowadays, you could slip a belt off of a pulley doing that. Do they still make belt dressing?
Man, I wish they'd quit if they do.
Really?
Yes. Man, belt dressing doesn't do nothing but make a gommed up mess.
Oh, I started to say.
Whenever you go in there to change a belt and you've got it from the tip of your fingers to your elbows trying to change a belt, and it may quiet a noise down. It doesn't do anything but just mask it, and eventually the noise will win out. And, belt dressing usually is a waste of time.
Kind of like a thin roof tar almost. Yeah, it's bad. Yeah.
So I got a question for you. My wife was looking around on the internet yesterday, and she found an ad, a story about a Plymouth or a Dodge, like a 1956-ish LaFemme. LaFemme, LAFEMME, a car marketed in that time, in that era, towards women. Pink. There's pictures of it. They only made a few of them. Yeah. Look it up.
Let me see if I can Google it.
And she was looking that up, and the car came with a pink interior and exterior, and it came accessorized with a lady's purse and different things, and all of it was all matched up. And it was a joke about how our perception of what women want has changed in the last 50 years or so. You look around now and around here and you see women driving everything from big old pickup trucks and cars and stuff. And back in the 50s, they had an idea that a woman wanted to drive a little pink Barbie doll looking car.
Well, here's a 56 Dodge LaFemme.
LaFemme, okay.
Yeah, and, it's ugly.
And it's pink, isn't it?
It's pink.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, read about that when you get a chance. My wife, she was reading that. I had never heard of one.
I've never heard of it.
I had never heard of one. So she gets to telling me about this, and I'm thinking, honey, seriously? So she walks over and shows it to me, and pink interior, and it came accessorized. I think it came with a purse and maybe some gloves or something like that.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
Oh, goodness. Minute Mechanics located Highway 201 North or across from Salvation Army, 425-3135. Real quick, got time to get people in this week.
You betcha. and we'll hit it running this morning.
Yep, they're open.
Most people had a 4-day weekend to get out and decide they need this or that done to their car, so we will be busy.
Yep. Monday through Friday this week, 8 to 5. Give Mike a call. Mike and gang, happy birthday to Dennis Messick. Hope he's listening today. He's one of the guys down at Minute
That's
Mechanic.
right.
Yeah. 425-3135, Minute Mechanic. Once again, Highway 201 North across from Salvation Army. Time for the news. Be right back.